episode of Bookends. And this time we're going to be concentrating on some of my favorites over the past few years, because everyone is probably going to need a beach read for the summer, right? So I've got something that everybody will like. I've got a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So let's start with our very first one. If you just want some mindless entertainment, fun, a little bit exciting, a little bit of action, kind of like a little bit of mystery, plus you get the wonderful character of the Paris detective, Luc Moncrief, who's working with the New York City Police Department. This is the book, Paris Detective by James Patterson. You're going to want this one. I love the character of Luc Moncrief. He's funny, he's irreverent, he does things his own way. There's no possible way that any such character could exist in the New York police system, but hey, let's just go with it, okay? He's fabulously wealthy. He's just awesomely good looking. You know, what more could you want from a book than this? So check that out for one of your beach reads this summer, The Paris Detective by James Patterson. It's got 3 stories in it, 3 little mysteries. I think you'll like it. But if horror is more your style, I read The Institute by Stephen King. This is about as much horror as I can handle, and it's creepy. It's very creepy. It's about a place called The Institute that kidnaps kids that have telekinetic abilities and takes them away to the place called The Institute and forces them to do really horrible things. So there's a hero in the story. Is just an ordinary guy. He just happens to be in the right place at the right time to meet an escapee from this institute that tells him of the horrors that are going on. So they have to figure out a way to shut this place down. And I highly recommend it. I couldn't put it down. It's The Institute by Stephen King, if you want a little bit of horror with your beach read. If a thriller is more your style, you will want to read When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole. I just finished this book not too long ago, and what makes it so, thrilling and just scary is that it definitely sounds like it could happen. It's about a woman who returns to her home city of Brooklyn from Seattle after her marriage fails, and everyone in her old neighborhood in Brooklyn is seeming to come up missing, and a conglomerate seems to be buying all their properties up and gentrifying everything. And there's going to be a new giant development in the area, totally changing the neighborhood. But this young woman, who's come back to kind of take care of her mother, and she sees this going on and tries to figure out what is at the root of it. And it's really scary, and it could happen in anybody's neighborhood. Big money talks and creepy things sometimes happen. So check this book out, When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole. I think you'll really like it. Now, if you like graphic novels, I really super recommend the series The Adventure Zone by the McElroy family. Clint, Griffin, Justin, and Travis. It's a father and 3 sons. They do a podcast, and they created these series of books called The Adventure Zone, based on their D&D games. And the graphic novels are just really screamingly funny. They are in our adult graphic novel section, just due to a little bit of swear words that are occasionally pop up. But other than that, I recommend it for everybody. Of course, preview all books before you give them to your children, but I find these books just absolutely hilarious. They're a trio of adventurers. There's an elf, there's a kind of a big burly warrior type guy, and then there's a dwarf, and they go off and adventure and they're hilarious. So I couldn't put them down. This is the most recent one. It's called The 11th Hour. They're by the McElroys and illustrated by Carrie Peach. This most recent one, The 11th Hour, has a lot of time travel in it. They're stuck in a time loop, so they have to kind of figure out how to get out of this time loop. And it's really super funny. So check that one out. If you like science fiction, I've got the Binti trilogy here. This is the first one, just called Binti, by Nnedi Okorafor. And it's about a young woman from a very small area of Africa that's got a very close-knit family. And she really wants to go off and study at a university on another planet. So she literally has to sneak away in the middle of the night to go to fly on a spaceship to this university. And she meets up with a whole bunch of other young people that are going to this university. And then partway there, they're attacked by another type of entity that's they're not aware of, and everybody dies except her. And so she's stuck on this spaceship with another life form they're kind of like jellyfish, but they float around. And she has to learn how to get along with this new group of traveling companions, and she eventually does make it to the university. It's very, very interesting. There are 3 books in the trilogy. I couldn't put it down. So, Binti by Nnedi Okorafor. You gotta read it. If you like kind of like Scandinavian novels, this one is one of my favorite. Instead of being the Scandinavian noir, this is Scandinavian blanc, as the author calls it. It's by Alexander McCall Smith, and it's The Department of Sensitive Crimes. It's very, very lighthearted. Nothing horrible happens in this book. But the characters are just super well drawn. The situations are interesting, they're funny, and I love it. It's just a really nice, light read by Alexander McCall Smith. It's called The Department of Sensitive Crimes. The main character is called Ulf Varg, which means wolf, wolf. But he's a nice guy. You kind of root for him. He's a detective in this Department of Sensitive Crimes. So I highly recommend it. So check it out. More into science fiction? Here's The Icarus Hunt by Timothy Zahn. Yes, the Timothy Zahn that writes the Star Wars novels. This is the first of a trilogy that he is writing on with these characters and these scenarios in this universe. And this has nothing to do with Star Wars. This is something that he's created all by himself. In this book, The Icarus Hunt, this is the first of the trilogy, and he's also released the second book in the trilogy, which is called The Icarus Plot, which is equally as good, if not even better, than this one. And he's due to release the third one at some point. But The Icarus Hunt is about a couple of smugglers. They're kind of on the fringes of society, and they have to be on the fringes of society because the transportation conglomerate called the PAC has taken over all of the shipping, and they own it basically. Everywhere you go in the universe, they are in charge. The PAC are in charge, so they've got all the money and control everything. And so they kind of pick up a livelihood on the fringes of society. Well, they are hired to take a ship from one place in the galaxy to another place, and all kinds of strange things happen. You just gotta read it. It's very interesting, very fun science fiction. The Icarus Hunt by Timothy Zahn. Another kind of science fiction fantasy novel, The Kaiju Preservation Society by John Scalzi. This is about a person who he or she is kind of down on their luck, and they get a job with this Kaiju Preservation Society, which is place, they've discovered a way into another universe where there are large dinosaur-like creatures roaming around, and they study it. They go through this doorway into this other dimension and study these creatures. And all kinds of crazy things happen. So check it out. The Kaiju Preservation Society by John Scalzi. Very interesting book. If you just want something quiet and peaceful, a good read about people's relationships with each other, I recommend Winter Solstice by Rosamund Pilcher. I've talked about this one before. I've talked about most of these before. This one is just about a bunch of people that aren't really closely connected, but they somehow end up in the same place at the same time during the winter holiday season in a remote village in Scotland. And it's about how they all get there and how they form their relationship and how they share the holiday season together. And it's just a very heartwarming, loving story, and I highly recommend it. Winter Solstice by Rosamund Pilcher. This is another one of my favorites here, The Lost Book of the Grail by Charlie Lovett. This is about an English college professor. He's middle-aged, he's a bachelor. His best friends are also kind of curmudgeonly old men, and they have a book group that meets once a week. But other than that, you know, that's how his life goes. He's just a college professor, and he has his book group. And everything is kind of thrown up in the air when the library of the cathedral that he studies in, they're deciding that they need to digitize everything in it. So they bring in a digitizer, and she happens to be from America, and she's kind of brash and outgoing, and at first he really hates her, but they work closely together, and there's a little bit of romance going on, but also they are looking for this lost book of Iwolda, who was the founder of the area, the founder of the cathedral, where most of this takes place. And so it's a little bit of mystery, a little bit of romance, curmudgeonly old guy. What's not to like? I definitely recommend it. The Lost Book of the Grail by Charlie Lovett. And of course, a mystery. I love cozy mysteries. So I will always read any mysteries by David Rosenfeld. And this one, I just picked one. It's called Hounded by David Rosenfeld. They always have dogs in them. He's kind of like a Matlock kind of character. The detective is named Andy Carpenter. So if you loved watching the show Matlock, you will love these books. He's I think he lives in New Jersey, but he lives in a kind of a small town in New Jersey. And anyways, he's just a famous lawyer. He's got loads of money, and he's always getting the good guys off because they're always getting framed for these horrible murders, and they didn't do it. So he solves the mystery and saves the day, and there are dogs involved. So check out David Rosenfeld's books. If you want just a romance, I've got one of those too. This is called The Belle of Belgrave Square by Mimi Matthews. And it is about it's kind of like Beauty and the Beast. It's about a young woman that just wants to read her books and ride her horse, but her parents are wanting her to marry some old doddering guy that's gonna keep her close to them so they can control everything that she does. And there's another character who is kind of an aristocrat, but of course he doesn't have any money, so he needs a bunch of money to save his old ancestral estate. And but he's kind of seen as a curmudgeonly kind of guy, even though he's of course very handsome. And you know these two are going to get together, and they do, and there are plot twists, but it's fun, and I think you'll really enjoy it if you like romances. So try The Belle of Belgrave Square by Mimi Matthews. And that's all that I have today, and we'll see you probably in the fall with a show on cookbooks and holiday books. So we'll see you then. Bye.